I'm Ken Moore, and we're here at John Stromme's Art Gallery. And tonight we're celebrating my kickoff for my campaign. And folks are going to come, and I'm going to ask them, what's their motivation? When did they notice that there was something in the world that they wanted to do something about? So I'm excited to hear their answers and to tell them some of what motivates me. Ripping us up for the last week, 2 weeks, months. And today, I saw that video of that woman addressing Senator Flake in his face and saying, what you're saying is the assault that happened to me does not matter. Just be quiet and go away. And seemed to make a difference. And because now I wanted the FBI investigation, so one person did something that could turn the tide. I was really inspired by that and moved, and it got to a heavier place inside of me. So I don't really have a happy ending to this yet. We don't know what's going to happen, who's going to be on our court for so many years. So it's more of a grieving thing right now is what I'm doing with you, because I think we can't go by that and talk about skip talking about that. So there we are. Anybody have something they want to add to what I've said?
Yay, women.
All right. Thank you. All right, well now, bringing it up a little bit. Thank you so much for being here. Here's one fun fact. John called me up and said, would you like to use my studio for an event? And I said, great. It would be a wonderful place to be, and people could look at art. And he says, yeah, and any art that is bought tonight, you get half of it. Wow. So if you see it, so thank you, John.
You're welcome.
If you see a painting you have to have, I'll enjoy it with you.
Well, I was just talking to John. He has some ulterior motives. He's moving Sunday, so what we buy, he doesn't have to move.
Let's give him a moment. John, where are you moving to, and where do we find you?
Oh, I'm actually moving to above Pino Vista in Evans and 3rd.
Nice. Okay.
Great. All right, well now for what I kind of wanted to do tonight is tell you and hear from you a couple of questions that you might land for you. When was the first moment that you remember having a political opinion? You know, Walt's got one right on him. You might have been
the wrong opinion.
It was the wrong.
I was supporting MacArthur over Truman. But later on, I changed.
Okay, all right. Well, that's great. You know, in my house, my mom got a degree from Cornell in business labor relations, and my uncle was a labor organizer. So at the table, I heard he was a labor organizer. He was so effective that he was blackballed and jailed, and he really gave his all to it. And that was my dad's brother. So I was raised. That's not me. I was raised with that understanding of how labor negotiates with industry, and so that was when I noticed that there was this in the world, and we're here at a time of an election when there's this, and it's not a comfortable time for us, and I'm not the incumbent, so I have to kind of go like this to the other guy, like what aren't you doing, and how I'm going to do it better.
Hello.
And that's not always a comfortable thing to do. Is that a man? Is that?
Oh, it's great.
But let's back up. When did you notice that the world didn't agree with itself? I mean, that there were divisions, and maybe that was a basis for what motivates you politically. Anybody have a thought about that? Who wants to share it? Miriam.
Well, I grew up in a family and I'm white, but my parents picked crops for a living. And I know what that life was like. And I know how hard it is. And all of us 6 kids had acute malnutrition, and my little sister had rickets, so I know what poverty is. And so that's very much one of my feelings about taking care of the little guy.
Thank you for sharing that. course, you've got an
I
opinion.
know.
Let's
I
hear
have
it.
a lot of opinions. Well, I think my big, when it really became probably more prominent in my life was in college. And that was, of course, that was, I was in college in Anita Hill. I mean, I remember that moment in college. I remember the protests on our campus at Indiana University. And I think that was my moment that I kind of got woke and got an opinion. And of course, it's Pence country, so it's highly conservative. And I have been a raving Planned Parenthood fan and ultimately got to work for them. But my senior papers, my senior year in college for graduation were about the pro-choice versus pro-life movement. And I think that was my moment that I decided I wanted to be politically active and I was going to fight for women's rights and fight for us to have control over our own bodies. And, I've spent pretty much most of my adult life engaged on those fronts. So that was for me. And this week has thus been a really big week. My friends, I worked for Planned Parenthood for 3 years. It was for me getting to go to the show. That was the dream job, the dream mission to go work for. And my peers and my dear friends across the country this week, our hearts are breaking. But we're going to stand together, arm in arm, and we're going to rise up against this thing. And that was today. I'm like, I am beginning even more so today we got to fight, and we got to fight hard. So,
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And Emily, what? Yeah.
Well, I was born overseas, and in Austria, we had a different group of people who were on the outs. They were the Yugoslavs who were the people because they were the immigrant laborers. When I came to this country, I found out that for some reason, unexplained to me and ununderstandable to me, people of color were not considered to be people, were invisible. And so that, to me, woke me up to what the situation is in America.
yay.
Thank you. Wow, these are deep roots. What we're
So
hearing
I have
here.
one too. I just found out what the question was.
PATRICIAFAYE.
So I was coming home from the Peace Corps in 1968. I had been in Guyana for 2 years, and I grew up in Mississippi, so going into the Peace Corps was like the first time I'd ever looked back at this country. And so 1968, some of you in the room remember that year. Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King were killed that year, and the riots were happening in Washington, D.C., and all the businesses were boarded up, and they couldn't find teachers to teach in the inner city schools. So there was this program called the Urban Teacher Corps, where if you were a returned Peace Corps volunteer, you could sign up to teach in the inner city schools for 3 years, and they would pay for you to go to graduate school. So that's what the man I was married to at the time and myself did. But the Vietnam War was going on, and I was very anti-war. And so I got involved with all the peace marches in Washington, D.C., and led some of them, and was just a raving rebel. So yeah, I think that was probably the time right in there, between 66 and 68 was my big wake up. Politically.
1967.
What?
Long hot
67?
summer.
Ralph, what was that?
1967, the long hot summer. I was a volunteer in Louisville, Kentucky, teaching day camp. And I actually met Martin Luther King that summer, saw Julian Bond, and a white kid from Montana just immersed in the ghetto in Louisville. And it was like, oh my God. That was a wake-up moment.
Thank you. ANNIKA is taking notes on these things, not describing your name next to it, but I want to put these things on the website. This is who we were, the gathered tonight. This is why we get up off our couches politically, and what motivates us. I think this would be inspiring to people that read it. How about some of you young folks? I've got some great interns from Linfield here tonight.
Yay!
And so, any thoughts coming to mind? For you?
I first realized there was division when I asked my father what a Republican was, and he just said a bunch of swear words. And then I interned for my local councilman in Hawaii, and I learned a little bit more about politics. I'm studying political science at Linfield right now, and I don't understand this polarization that's happening in our country right now, because I have family that's rural and country and Republican, and they love my family that's Democratic and hippie and liberal. And I want our country to be able to work again across partisan lines.
Amelia, thank you. Wilson, a thought?
I would say that I definitely grew up in a polarized family. My dad is pretty Republican, my mom is pretty liberal, but so I grew up with that knowledge of what both parties meant to each other. But the thing that I think struck me the most was just how important the middle class is to America. And now this is the time where we're seeing that shrink. And I think that's something that's really important and that needs to be addressed. And I think that's kind of just what sparked me into getting involved, and then it's kind of grown into something else because my primary interest is in foreign policy, so I usually deal with overseas stuff, but domestically, absolutely, the middle class is the backbone of America and it needs to be fixed.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have something they want to share?
It's a hard lesson to learn. You can do the right thing, but that doesn't mean the bad thing stops.
So environmentalism is what kind of where you noticed something was wrong in the world and something needed to be done. Wow. Anybody else? I don't want to miss everything. It's so incredible.
Just related.
Next. Go ahead.
Related to the garbage comment. When I was a freshman in high school, I was traveling by myself to Washington, D.C., where my grandma lived. And we're in the Lynchburg, Virginia bus station early morning for breakfast. And I sat down in the booth, and there was a middle-aged African-American couple sitting in the booth next to me. And of course, that was a long time ago. And then I saw the waitresses pointing to them, and then the waitresses were giggling with one another. Then they went over to the couple, and I could not hear what they said. But the couple got up, walked down the hallway, looked in a room, and then walked back to the bus without breakfast. And when I went back to the bus, and I should have gotten food for them, but I'm sure I had no money. But I went down that hallway, and the room that was the African-American dining room was the garbage room. There were about 20 garbage cans open, and a little tiny table right in the middle, and that's where they were expected to eat. And rather than do that, they had the dignity just to go back to the bus. And that made an impression on me, among other events in my life that made an impression.
So I'm not actually that political. I kind of think of I just look at what's right, and when I see what's right, it's right, or I think it's right, back to my own moral code. But the reason I wanted to do this is Jen and I did some work together, and I'm not local, but I know excuse me, I know an honest man when I see one, and Jen was just amazing to work with. I knew that I had a friend who was going to be friends with for a long time. And I know if Ken is in office, I know he's going to do the right thing. And that, to me, is what matters. Everything else is just everything else.
Are you crying yet?
Good job. That's really something. Oh, all right. I want to just shift a little bit now. I don't want to cut anybody off if you're just about to raise your hand. I just want to talk about what I'm up to, what I've seen, what matters to me, and what matters to the community, and what can be done about it in the legislature. I'm not running for the city council. I'm not running for the county commissioner. What can be done in the legislature about what? So the what that come to my mind are affordable housing, homelessness. That's really up for a lot of us. And I'm not going to spend a long time talking about it other than to say a first step to treating this problem for the state to get involved, coordinating cities and counties and private partnerships, but to administer that with some funding, that I'll talk about how you're going to get that, for supportive transitional housing. You know, Howie Harkeman talks about the Compass Center. You've heard him talk about that for years. Basically, those things that help get people off the street, under a shelter, housing first, you've heard those words, that you give them the individual treatment that they need to see if they can make the next step. So how are you going to pay for that? There's this tax deduction that you get on your mortgage interest. And if you have a second home, you get a deduction on your mortgage interest for that second home. To me, as far as looking for revenue for people that don't have houses, to people that have second houses, that's pretty low-hanging fruit. Just to get political for a moment, the Realtors Association, well, why am I standing here tonight? Because the Realtors Association funded my opponent's postcard to send out to Democrats to ask them to vote, write his name in on their Democratic ballot, so he would be both the Democratic and the Republican nomination. And the local party said, what? And they said, well, who can we get to put his name on there, and a writing campaign? And so they asked me, and I said yes. And so I won an election. It was only Democrats, but okay. So that's why I'm here. But the Realtors Association is the one that wanted to make sure that a representative, the representative that represented this area was one that would not be touching that, and even maybe go after mortgage deductions for people that make over $250,000. That those would be limited on a scale. That money is what we could administer and see for supportive transitional housing. So that's one thing that yeah, I'm on that, and that is, I think, important to all of us. I've been hearing that, and I go down the street and I can't look away. That's what I tell myself. Do not look away, and because it's not going to go away if you ignore it. It's only going to get to be worse. So you can see that I feel a lot the way you do. You see these people, and it just buckles your knees. What do I do? And so I'm going to do something about it, and I want your support to help me do that.
Yes.
The next thing that I just want to talk about, what's got me, when I went into a family place and I saw their model of giving away free diapers. Who needs free diapers? People that can't afford them, that have children. And their model is these people perhaps are at risk in their parenting relationship with their child because they're stressed. So they call it a relief nursery. Have some diapers come in. Oh, there's some other mothers that you can meet with and talk to and get relationships, because oftentimes people in low income are isolated. You know, there's not this little club where they get together and no, they're isolated, they're lonely, they're desperate in many cases. And so, what am I going to do? What about the family place? Definitely be funding relief nurseries around the state. I think that's a model that, you know, just really grabs me. But I hear Mary Alice, Dr. Russell, the superintendent of schools here, talk about her number one thing is preschool. Why? Because kids that are coming from stressed homes are not prepared. They don't have more than a few letters or a few words or even colors when they come to kindergarten. Back that up to 3-4 years old for voluntary preschool for everybody that wants it. So, well, I'm going to pay for that. Well, if you've read my webpage, and I'd like you to go and read my article on reigning in corporate power, because it talks about the tax loopholes. You've heard that word. I mean, it's sad to use it, but there have been so many loopholes created for industry that are crippling us. And if we pass Measure 104, that's the one where you have to have a supermajority to restrict, to take back to, they call it increasing revenue, but to close those loopholes. 13 senators could stop that, because that's what it takes to stop to thwart a supermajority to
close tax loopholes. So 104 is really bad. So where's the money going to come from? Tax loopholes. Corporate tax has gone from decades ago 18% of the total revenue of the state to around 6.7%. So the lobbyists are winning, right? The corporations fund them to and fund those candidates that will have those loopholes available, that will fight against the measures like the Fight For measures 103 and 104. So that's a place where there's a lot of balancing to do that can go to education. You hear our education budget's bigger than ever. Yeah, we've got more schools, and hey, we just added half a grade. We added full-day kindergarten. So yeah, it's got to get bigger. We're growing. Our budget will get bigger as we grow. And the third thing that I marched in. I didn't march in the Carlton Parade, the Yamhill Parade, as Ken Moore vote for me. I marched with Healthcare for All Oregon. We had Jane Kristoff in a wheelchair and made up to look like somebody that needed health care. And when I came up to the parade, she had this black eye, and I thought, oh my gosh, she's falling down. She looks horrible. It was makeup. We won first place for makeup in the parade. Anyway, we wheeled her down the street, and I passed out flyers to people along the road saying, "Healthcare for all Oregonians, or all Oregonians. We can't all live without it." So this is a concept that's gaining traction. Before it was like socialized medicine, you know. That's not the bad word that it was, and that people don't even bother with that anymore because we talk about covering everyone. So I'm going to be one of those legislators that keeps pushing that to the center of the table to be negotiated and considered and figure out how we can make bold moves around housing and healthcare and education. You saw what I talked about tonight. We're not committees to study how to address a certain sector. No, let's get at it because it's time to move boldly. And I think with a few more people like me in the legislature, that can happen. Sweetie, you're thinking, what did I forget to say? If we get home, we're going home, and you say, sweetie, you should have said this, what would it be?
No, I'm just thinking how proud I am of you.
Oh. Oh. Thank you. I hope you all meet Christy.
These are key, fundamental, deep-rooted issues, I mean, deep at the heart of our community. And I can't think of anything on an agenda that would be more important for what's important to me is my kids and unborn grandkids. Solving today's problems for today's generation, it's almost too little too late. But what are we going to do for Dr. Mary Alice Russell? What are we going to do for the people that run Family Place and the constituents they serve? What are we going to do for the people that are downtrodden and forgotten, and many of them young, many of them veterans, and the affordable housing, transitional housing, homeless issues? There's nothing more important in my opinion. Thank you for addressing those.
Amazing people in this room. We're all amazing in our own way. Paul's amazing because he prototypes airplanes that fly on the latest batteries. So people invent a battery and they want to kind of showcase it. They say, hey, would you put this in one of your airplanes and see make it fly for a really long time? And that's just one of the things that he's doing now. Where are you located now?
Out at McMinnville Airport.
Okay, great. So amazing people. I'm so glad you came tonight. I'm wrapping it up with a big thank you for being here and for your support. And take a lawn sign home. Talk to ANNIKA about how to help. And, oh, Carolyn.
Ken, because you addressed homelessness
Yes.
and the importance of getting people off the street, I'd like to also say that I think that our legislatures need to keep in mind we need to be proactive with the people who are economically marginalized and aren't homeless yet. But if we get the homeless off the street and they don't have rent control, they're going to end up back on the street in 2 years. So we've got to have rent control on a municipal and county level, on a grassroots level first, so when we get them off the street, they don't get back on the street again. Now, that's my big thing for anyone running in this campaign. We've got to have rent control. we're out of time on that.
Thank you, Carol. Anything else have a passion that they want to get off their, they want to say? Ralph?
I just want to say one word 3 times: veterans, veterans, veterans.
Thank you.
We are not treating our veterans right. I'm not one, but I know lots of them that they need help.
There's a whole bunch of people on that list.
Those guys go do what they do, and then they can't get health care, or they end up homeless.
Yeah,
That's a travesty of the greatest proportion.
Thank you.
I didn't stop at 3 words today.
Thank you for sharing.
So,
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a petition here. It's to ask the city to ask Recology to provide a place for us to recycle styrofoam.
Oh,
And
please,
we're
yes.
going for 500 to 1,000 signatures, and then the city's council is going to give us a hearing night so the public can come and weigh in, and we're going to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
So I have a petition if you'll sign it.
Zero waste, thank you. Applause for zero waste.
Shay is on my campaign. She manages social media. Yes, Shay.
I just wanted to say, if anybody wants to write postcards in support of Ken, make sure to grab some at the front. We've got sets of 25 postcards with addresses and stamps already ready, and talking points, things to write on the card. So if you want to fill out postcards,
Do we put them in the mail when we're done?
and you put them right in the mail when you're done.
They're already stamped?
There's stamps with them.
Okay, okay, great.
Well, I'd like to say something, and I want to thank you for running. I think it's a heroic act.
It's great to do this. I mean, I feel like I've been to church, right?
Right.
This is like, this is good stuff. I don't live in McMinnville.
Oh, you're not? Oh, it's just
I gotta be
McMinnville
legal.
residents.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sandy. Well,
No, I'm saying pass that around.
These are the right key fundamental issues.
No, that's really.
You get to take home the glass. Thank you, Naked Winery. They have some glasses. If you take home a glass or two,
This is the my art.
and buy art, and head down to Naked Winery after you leave here. The 3 things that I'm running for to make a difference in this House District 24 is I have noticed that there's a great problem with people falling out of their homes because of a health care crisis. We need health care for all. Let's face that. Let's do bold strokes, not working around the edges. I've noticed that children coming into school need more preparation. They're not prepared to be a part of the environment, and they're disturbing to others. If they came and were introduced to being socialized in preschool and given a start on the academic skills, they're going to be much more likely to move through and graduate. And the third thing is I am concerned about homelessness. The thing that we need to do is to address homelessness with supportive transitional housing. This is a place that anyone can come to get the help that they need to start climbing back into being healthy, happy, and productive in society. So I hope you'll join me in my campaign for House District 24. And you will find more information about my campaign on my website, MooreForOregon.com. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. You'll find me, More for Oregon.
My name is ANNIKA ALBRECHT, and I am at Ken Moore's campaign kickoff event because I am his campaign manager. I'm also a student at Linfield College, and I wanted to get more involved in the local community of McMinnville and learn more about local politics after I have worked on several other campaigns. And Ken was the perfect candidate for me as he aligns with my progressive values. Before working on Ken's campaign, I had the pleasure of volunteering and interning, as well as working on several other campaigns, from stuffing envelopes to organizing events to rallying people to calling and asking for money. I've done it all now. I've worked on starting with Bernie Sanders' campaign, moving to Hillary Clinton, then to Governor Kate Brown, from ballot measure 101 for net neutrality in Oregon, and finally Ken Moore for Oregon in House District 24. I'm currently a junior at Linfield College, triple majoring in history, political science, and communication arts. I'm also co-president of Linfield College Democrats and involved on many other things on campus. To learn more about Ken Moore, please go to MooreForOregon.com. That's MOORE for Oregon.com. It's very important to be registered to vote. The deadline to register to vote is October 17th. Oregon has mail-in ballots that will drop soon, and you have until November 6th to drop your ballot or mail it back in to Oregon to get your vote counted. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wilson Miles. I'm a senior at Linfield College, majoring in international relations. It's Friday, September 29th, and we're here at John Stromme's Art Gallery welcoming Ken Moore's supporters for his campaign kickoff party. The most important thing is that we want to encourage everybody to go out and vote on Tuesday, November 6th.
Hi, my name is Ralph Compton. I'm here at Ken Moore's, is this his kickoff meeting? Met Ken on the street the other day and he just seemed really engaging. It's September 28th. We just went through the Kavanaugh hearings. My wife said, let's go to that thing. We just can't do nothing anymore. That has passed. I've been politically silent since May of 1970. I was involved with the Kent State stuff and kind of burned out. I've been very apolitical since then. But it's time that everybody has to do something to right this ship just a little bit. And I like the way Ken's thinking. And I'm really glad to be in Oregon right now. Hopefully we can help this thing out.
Hello, my name is AMELIA WORNOCK. I'm here at Ken Moore's kickoff campaign. He's running for House District 24, and I'm interning for Ken Moore and helping out with his campaign because he's a Democrat, I'm also a Democrat, and he supports a lot of the values that align with my own, like supporting education and our teachers and the environment, which are two issues that I'm really passionate about. We're here at the John Stromme Gallery so Ken can talk to his constituents and talk to people about issues that they're passionate about and take that into account. If you'd like more info, you can visit Ken Moore's Facebook page, which is Local Matters with Ken Moore.
My name is Paul Peterson. I'm a resident of Beaverton and a business owner in McMinnville. And I'm here at Ken Moore's campaign kickoff event in McMinnville. And I'm here to support Ken because I believe that he is sincere and fundamentally honest and approaching the right fundamental problems to solve in our community, primarily affordable transitional housing, early childhood education, and health care for all Oregonians. And that segues into so many other parts of our community and has a lasting effect on our economy and serves Oregonians for generations to come. If you solve those three fundamental problems, and I believe Ken is the man to do that in our state legislature.
I'm Walt Perry. I live in Yamhill. I've known Ken from the time we moved here about 4 years ago, and I support Ken in this task, this campaign. I was glad to come to this event this evening, and I think it's good to have a person who is thoughtful, conscientious, and will be honest, and will try to do what is best for the people of this community in the state. So it's been my opportunity to be here, and glad to have known Ken and many of the good people that are here. Thank you.
Make sure to vote for Ken Moore by Tuesday, November 6th for more progressive Yamhill.
Hi, this is PATRICIAFAYE Marshall, and I'm here tonight in support of my really good friend, Ken Moore. I've probably known Ken for at least 10 years, and I know who he is, and I know his heart, and I know that he's all about being on the side of love and doing the right thing, and so I trust him, and that's why I'm here. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is to vote. I mean, voting is like how we can express who we want. And if you're bitching and complaining about who's in office and you didn't vote, well, guess what? Your vote makes a difference. And so grab that, seize that, and express yourself with your vote. I'm also here for Zero Waste McMinnville. I'm circulating a petition tonight to request that the city request of Recology to provide a collection spot and transportation so that we can get our styrofoam collected and hauled to this place in Tigard called Agilix. And Agilix has developed a technology where they can melt down the styrofoam into other polystyrene products, and it keeps it out of the landfill. It's not the answer, but it keeps the styrofoam, huge amounts of it, out of the landfill. So if you run across that petition, it's going to be at the farmers market every Thursday afternoon until the market closes, and several of us are just walking around with a clipboard. So if we cross your path with a clipboard and smiling faces, please approach us and sign the petition. And vote, by all means vote. Thanks.
And one more thing. I want you to register to vote before October 17th. And you know you can do it on your cell phone and be ready to vote in this election on November 6th.